Money is never an obstacle to realizing good business ideas. I was an entrepreneur before I had a company and before I had the knowledge of what I wanted to do. It's like choosing a life partner. If you start figuring out exactly who they are, tall or fat, blonde or brunette, then you'll never find them.
What were perhaps the first challenges when you started? Did you start, so to speak, working with others right away, or did you start as a sole proprietor? What were your first experiences as an entrepreneur?
Well, in the beginning, it was like when I thought about it, I had been a salaried employee for a year, and then I realized I had to find another way. But then it took me another 4 or 5 years to break out of that pattern. And those searches were very intensive. I have a folder on my computer from that time. I have over 40 different business plans that were worked through at that time. So I was rather quite sure that I wanted to live the life of an entrepreneur, but I didn't have that specific great idea to start with right away. It took me 4 or 5 years trying and testing different things before I actually dared to start my first companies.
But you became an entrepreneur before you found the field.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly how it was with me. I was an entrepreneur before I had a company and before I had the knowledge of what I wanted to do. And with me, it was even so curious that since none of those 45 or more business plans somehow worked, didn't show that it would be possible to make money from them, but that it would be some kind of normal activity to engage in the long run. Then at one point, I got angry. We discussed these business plans with a good friend, and then we realized that since our think big doesn't work at all, it doesn't produce results, then damn it, let's think small for a change. And our first company, then all right, let's just create this company so that it's done. We thought, should there also be a goal, for our first company and think small? We thought that we can't think any smaller, so we set a goal to get back the company's formation costs. At that time, you still had to put in a pretty significant amount of money to be able to create a company. So it wasn't as easy or as fast as it is now. Now, that was my first company. Nothing came of it. We did sell the legal entity later to a buddy who was actually able to do business with it, but that was my first company.
So your experience kind of debunks the myth that many starting or non-starting entrepreneurs think that if only a great business idea came along, then I would do it. That you don't actually need to have the idea, you just need to start. And once you've started, you have to figure it out because you've already created the company.
Absolutely. And I'm afraid that most companies are never created because people are waiting for that eureka moment. Just and it doesn't just happen, you have to experiment. It's like choosing a life partner. At some point, that this would be an important thing in your life. It would be great if I could find a nice person, but as long as you're trying to figure out exactly who they are, whether they're tall or fat, blonde or brunette, then you'll never find them. You have to start. You just have to start meeting people. You have to start living the life you want to live, and then those things will come to you.
That's very cool. I think this will definitely encourage many who are currently considering and thinking about launching their first company. Just start the company, maybe find some like-minded people and just start somewhere. And that small goal is also a very good example that just earning back your costs could be a perfectly valid goal, right? Exactly. Do you also remember that time when you were, so to speak, barely making ends meet, or you couldn't afford much luxury, and what that life was like? Because when you've already come so far, people usually can't relate to the fact that someone has come from the same place we all come from, right?
After university, I worked in banking, in asset management. And what I did alongside that salaried job, I saved money very intensively because if you don't have much income, well, then you can actively deal with your expenses. In a way, it's like very good training. And if you work on it consistently and well, then at some point it becomes your daily routine and a natural part of life, and you'll see the benefit of it. Although, well, my later experience in life says that for implementing good business ideas, money is never an obstacle. There's always less money than one would like, both in one's personal life and in business. And we have never set the availability of money as a criterion or a limitation on whether we do the next project or not.
Exactly.
If we have found a good thing to do, if we see that it's possible to find a return there, then there is definitely an unhappy wallet somewhere that is looking for that return, and you just have to find it. And we get the project done. the investor gets a return on their money, we get to grow, everyone wins. Yes.
So the point of this is that it's not that you can do it without capital, but you don't always have to have that capital yourself to be able to start. And I believe that this is also the main obstacle for many starting entrepreneurs as well as investors, that I can't do anything today because I don't have my own money. But that's not actually true, is it?
It's not. I very much encourage, if you are a person with an entrepreneurial mindset, don't be afraid of loans. This doesn't mean you have to take out loans foolishly, but the reality is that it's not possible to grow big without leverage. Rather, think through how you manage the risks associated with the loan, how you cope with them, but growing on your own wallet, well, you can't get big that way.